Welcome to this new automotive news video for Friday, July 10, 2026. On today's agenda, Volkswagen is in crisis and will cut much of its lineup. Nissan is preparing an SUV under 10,000 euros. MG has unveiled a new model to rival the Renault 5. And VinFast has revealed an electric car costing less than 7,000 euros. I hope today's topics will interest you. If that's the case, as usual, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for upcoming videos, boosting this one to improve its ranking, and leaving a comment where you simply share your opinion on this Friday's news. And just a quick note before we start today's news. I mentioned that this week I would do a little live session to chat with you directly about cars and review the first 6 months of 2026. I didn't have time and probably won't next week either, so this live session will likely be postponed to the week of July 20th, but it will happen. Volkswagen continues to sink deeper into crisis. For decades, people thought the group was untouchable. It's the #1 automotive group, European, owner of huge brands like Audi, Porsche, Bentley, and even Lamborghini. The group embodied the strength of German industry. But today, this model is starting to falter. The Volkswagen Group has just unveiled a vast restructuring plan that could mark a turning point. The group has just announced that by 2030, it will significantly simplify its lineup. It was already known that at Volkswagen, some models would disappear, considered less profitable or less commercially attractive. But no one expected so many models to be discontinued, because Volkswagen has just announced that half of its models will disappear. The goal is to simplify a lineup that has become far too extensive and to focus investments on the vehicles considered the most profitable and most in demand. A simplification that will go even further, since in addition to removing 50% of its models, Volkswagen also wants to reduce the complexity of its lineup by 75%. That means that even for the models that will continue to exist, there are many variants, trims, options, and configurations that will disappear. Once again, the idea is to reduce development, production, and logistics costs in order to regain profitability. A restructuring plan that doesn't just concern the group's models, since what we feared, that Volkswagen would cut up to 100,000 jobs worldwide, is starting to be confirmed. We still don't know exactly how many jobs will be cut, but we already know, since it's now confirmed, that it will be more than the 50,000 job cuts that had already been initiated. So, most likely somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 Ford German factories are threatened with closure. Those in Hanover, Emden, Zwickau, as well as the Neckarsulm site. The risk of closure is very worrying beyond just the automotive industry, because if Volkswagen disappears from these cities, since it's the #1 local employer, the entire regional economy will collapse. In Zwickau, for example, there are 8,000 people who work directly for Volkswagen. If the factory closes, it's all the subcontractors, all the businesses, the entire local economy that risks a major crash. And the problem is that this entire automotive crisis that Volkswagen is experiencing is starting to spread to the rest of the German and European automotive industry. According to Hildegard Müller, the president of the VDA, which is the Association of German Car Manufacturers, job cuts and factory closures will become inevitable throughout the entire European automotive industry. It's true that here we're talking about Volkswagen, but BMW is also going to cut 8,000 jobs, Mercedes, several thousand as well. Nissan, same thing. Stellantis, same thing. Even Renault is somewhat in this situation. It's different. They're cutting jobs in Europe to move them to China. The VDA estimates that European manufacturers have been suffering for too long from production costs that are too high, energy that is too expensive, costly labor, and bureaucracy that puts them at a disadvantage compared to their international competitors. Facing rising competition from Chinese manufacturers in Europe, the VDA says all brands must restructure their production capacity. What's happening at Volkswagen today could signal the start of a major transformation for the entire automotive industry. This crisis shows one thing: the automotive industry is changing. The traditional manufacturers are now trying to survive, while new players want to gain market share with unbeatable prices, which is why Nissan has just unveiled a new SUV priced under 10,000 euros. This is the SUV called Tecton, which has a very clear ambition: to be a spacious, modern, robust vehicle at an unbeatable price. At first glance, its design is reminiscent of the imposing Nissan Patrol or Armada SUVs. In any case, that's what Nissan is trying to make us believe, because in reality, if you scratch the surface a little, you realize that this vehicle is actually based on the Duster. Indeed, on the outside, Nissan tried to give it a slightly more upscale look, with a two-tone paint job and a light strip running across the tailgate. Inside, there's a fully digital cockpit, featuring a 10-inch screen for the driver, paired with a 10-inch screen in the center of the vehicle for managing the interface. Under the hood, Nissan is focusing on simplicity. The lineup includes two turbocharged gasoline engines, with no electrification or hybridization at all. The first is a 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo engine with 100 horsepower paired exclusively with a 6-speed manual transmission. Above that, there's a 1.3-liter 4-cylinder engine with 160 horsepower available either with a 6-speed manual transmission or a 6-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. By the way, regarding the transmission, even though this model uses the same technical base as the Duster, no 4x4 version has been announced. We're talking about a vehicle that will only be front-wheel drive. The entry-level version is priced from 9,623 euros, and the top-of-the-line version with the bigger engine starts at 17,300 euros. Exactly the kind of vehicle we need in Europe. Exactly, since this vehicle for now is reserved for the Indian market. Let me know in the comments what you think, but I believe that if Nissan managed to offer a small, ultra-simple, reliable 4x4 like this one in Europe, sold new between 10,000 and 15,000 euros, it would very likely sell in huge quantities. A price war that's only just beginning because another manufacturer is now ready to make an even bigger impact in Europe by directly targeting one of the stars of the French market, the electric Renault 5. After shaking up the market with its aggressively priced electric models, MG is stepping up its game. The Chinese brand has just unveiled a new concept called Go at the Goodwood Festival. Behind this prototype is actually a future electric city car that will arrive as early as 2027. This car will still be sold at a fairly aggressive price, but it will no longer be purely entry-level, for the simple reason that MG wants to move a bit up market and offer a car that's still affordable, but a little more expensive than what they're used to, with a bit more style. We're looking at a car set to compete with the Renault 5 and electric Polo, but the brand is currently keeping the technical details of this city car under wraps. That said, one very good piece of news has been announced. Of course, there will be a fully electric version, but it's also said that there might be a version with a combustion engine, probably as a range extender. This could allow MG to establish itself in a market that Renault chose not to enter with its Renault 5, which is purely electric. The goal here is to offer a versatile city car at a price below 20,000 euros. That's a price usually reserved for the smallest, most basic entry-level city cars. Although it's shown as a concept car, MG says its design is nearly final, with just a few small details remaining. Its style stands out from most other concept cars. There's nothing extravagant, even though the car is orange and wide. It's not an overly futuristic design either. The brand chose to go with a simple, balanced, and well-proportioned design. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. In any case, this isn't the only model unveiled by MG that will be sold in Europe. The brand also took advantage of the Goodwood Festival to reveal the Cyber, a large SUV that, on the other hand, will apparently be fully electric. Here, too, the design seems to be almost final. And unfortunately for now, we don't have much more technical information to go on. In just a few years, MG has changed its strategy a lot. It's no longer just trying to attract customers with its prices, but also with its cars. And if the future Go lives up to its promises, the Renault 5 could soon face one of its most formidable competitors. If you want the cheapest electric car, there's an option even less expensive than MG. Indeed, VinFast has just unveiled the VF2, a 100% electric mini-city car starting at 6,300 euros battery included, a price that puts it just above a slightly high-end scooter. We're talking about a very small car here, 3.09 meters long, 1.49 meters wide, and 1.66 meters high. The body has only 2 doors, a deliberate choice to prioritize simplicity and reduce production costs. It has a rather simple style with almost round LED headlights, a vertical silhouette, and only 13-inch wheels. Inside, in front of the driver, there's a 7-inch screen for the gauges, manual air conditioning with a physical button, and a driver's seat with 4 adjustments. A 2-speaker audio system and no big flashy screen or really sophisticated technology. Under its hood, the VinFast VF2 gets a 30 kW electric motor, which is about 40 horsepower installed at the rear of the vehicle. It's rear-wheel drive. In my opinion, that's enough. In the rain, that must be something, right? Fortunately, its top speed is limited to 80 km/h. The motor is paired with an 18.3 kWh battery, which gives it a range between 160 and 180 kmWLTP. So we're really talking about a pure city car here, and a car that's absolutely not versatile, especially since fast charging isn't really fast. We're talking about a charging power of 24 kWh here, which allows you to go from 10 to 70% charge in 34 minutes. Pre-orders will open on July 15, 2026 in Vietnam. That will be its main market. But VinFast, which is trying to establish itself in other parts of the world in Europe, explained that it's possible the VF2 could arrive in a modernized version for Europe. Probably more expensive, maybe with a bit more equipment and a bit more battery. If VinFast goes through with the project, it will be one of the first brands to market this kind of small electric cars in Europe. While all the European manufacturers have been waiting for months to present their famous European-style K cars. That's it. We've covered today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, and becoming a supporter by clicking the join button below. I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.